The Viper V3 Pro. Now, I know what you're thinking. How is this gonna compare to any mouse that's being released now, like the X2 Super Strike from Logitech, when this was released roughly around 2 years ago? Well, today I'm gonna explain to you why I still have this mouse and how I abuse it every single day, and it's still an extremely viable mouse to buy now. So I've had this mouse for the past year now, and honestly, I have almost no complaints about it. It's pretty incredible. For the amount of time I've had it, it has almost no scratches. It feels perfect in games. I abuse this mouse basically every day in FPS games, and when I play it continuously for hours, it hardly ever hurts my fingers or hands. Like, they hardly ever get tired, and yeah, it just fits incredibly into my hands also. And if you want another source saying that it's incredible, on ratings.com they still have it as their 2026 best upper to mid-range gaming mouse on the market. However, it's not all sunshine and rainbows with this mouse, of course, since it does now lack innovation and customization with it being compared to the Super Strike, since the Super Strike now has actuation points. Like I explained in my Wooting 60HE video, you can now adjust how far you need to press down on a mouse for it to activate it. The V3 Pro also has optical switches, whereas now the Super Strike has haptic switches, which basically means that the V3 Pro has that more tactile, traditional feel that when you click down on a mouse, it has that clicking sound and doesn't allow for double clicks or misclicks, as someone might say. Whereas the Super Strike has a magnetic field, the haptic switches, which basically means that the magnetic field determines how much force you need to actually put down on a left click or right click on the mouse for it to determine whether it activates. The second kind of negative I have about this mouse is actually the program behind it, which is Razer Synapse, which the initial part isn't that complicated at all. You just either plug in the wire into the dongle or the wire into the mouse, of course, and then you just click your mouse on Razer Synapse. But it's actually after, when you click the mouse on Razer Synapse, it comes up with 5 different settings, which you can customize, of course, like any other software. However, it does have an advanced tab, which isn't beginner friendly at all. You can kind of change your dynamic sensitivity with a graph and create your own sensitivity. The rest of it isn't really that complicated, but I wouldn't say it's exactly beginner friendly. The last negative about this mouse, which is kind of like finding a needle in a haystack kind of complaint, is that it's just FPS based only. If you need a mouse just to work on, like you just only work on your PC or you just browse, I would not recommend this mouse to you at all. But if you do play games, of course, this mouse is perfect, since it does have a high price for the high polling rate. But yeah, if you only just use it for work and browsing on the internet, of course, this mouse won't be for you. Now, moving on to the more upside part about the V3 Pro is that it actually is lighter than the Super Strike. The Super Strike comes in at 61 grams and the V3 Pro comes in at 54. Now, if you ask me, in a competitive scene, that might give you a very, very slight advantage in terms of faster flicking, which also propels me into the second positive that I have, that it actually will give you faster flicking and more consistent flicking, since the V3 Pro has optical switches, which won't allow you to double click or misclick, for example, like the new tech in the Super Strike might do. The last but definitely not least positive about this mouse is the elite level sensor and tracking consistency that it has. It is literally incredible. The millisecond response time that you have on 4000 polling rates is 0.53, and it can go all the way as low as 0.4 if you play on 8000 polling rates, which is absolutely insane. The way this thing responds while tracking as well, it feels like you have some sort of IRL aimbot. In game it feels insanely smooth, and honestly, in this sector, I have nothing bad to say about it. Now, before we actually buy a mouse, we actually want to take a look at how much battery life the mouse has. Now, in terms of the V3 Pro, it does have 95 hours of battery life if you use it at 1K polling rates. Now, if you use it at 8K polling rates, it will last you 17 hours. So I find the sweet spot at 4K polling rates because it gives me that slight competitive advantage and it lasts me for a very long time. Now, if you ask me in terms of feeling, I can't really remember the last time I actually had to charge this thing. So if you want to buy a mouse that will last you basically forever, because every time I look on Razer Synapse, it literally says 97-98%. So if you want to buy a mouse that lasts you forever, this is literally the mouse for you. Now, if you're like me, when it comes to setup and my peripherals, I don't really have all that fascinating stuff. Yes, I have very good performing stuff, but in terms of colors and stuff, it's just black and white. In terms of the mouse, this is literally just an all black opaque mouse. There's not much to it, left and right click, scroll wheel and 2 side buttons. That's about it. If someone who had no idea about tech went to look at my mouse, they would say, oh, that's just a regular mouse, what's so good about it? And then when you use it in game, you realize how much of a beast this thing actually is. So if you're like me and you're kind of minimalistic, you don't want a very flashy looking mouse or setup, then this Viper V3 Pro is actually one of the best on the market. So after 2 years since release, would I still recommend the V3 Pro to you? I would still say yes. Of course, it's not the very upper echelon of new mice, so if you're looking for that best mouse possible on the market out there, the Super Strike is still for you, since it has the haptic switches, the magnetic fields, and adjustable actuation points, which the V3 Pro obviously does not have. But if you're looking for a mid to upper range mouse that will still dominate in competitive gameplay, then the V3 Pro is actually still a very, very viable choice. Now, would I say it's the best? No, of course, you have the Super Strike, but it's still an incredible choice. So don't be discouraged if you have to get a V3 Pro and you don't have the budget to get a Super Strike, because you will still destroy in any game you play.